We always say you're only as good as the standards you walk by. You need to have the vision to be able to see what's wrong, but it's how you deal with that as a person. And we should be striving for better all the time.
What do you think I would have had to show in terms of development for you to turn around and go, Jack, you've gone from an okay chef to a good chef?
The chef's mentality is it can always be better. You're only as good as the quality you walk by.
That's brilliant.
Hi, my name's Lloyd Mann and I'm the Global Executive Chef at Sodexo with 426,000 team members across 43 countries, and this is my duvet flip.
Why chefing?
A lot of it was to keep me out of trouble. My nan was a good cook, and so to keep me out of trouble, she would give me little jobs to do around the kitchen. That's where the passion came from.
Nan and Grandad keeping you out of trouble, and then you just falling in love with it and building a career out of it. It's just incredible. What does an apprenticeship chef does?
They have to be curious. It's around having the right attitude, give them the right structure to learn, but also there's got to be a little bit of magic. You know, they've got to have that kind of desire to do more.
How long does it take to become a qualified chef?
Normally between 2 to 3 years. It's really accessible. It's a career that you can get into at any stage. I could go in day one, I'm learning. Regardless, it's a life skill, but everybody should learn how to cook. I've got 3 daughters. They can all cook reasonably well.
At home, you get to be a judge chef.
No, I get to be a personal chef when I'm home.
I love it. What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
I think it's, hi, my name's Lloyd Mann and I'm the Global Executive Chef at Sodexo. I wanted to come on My Duvet Flip as a challenge to myself, but also to represent the chef community at Sodexo and the kind of culinary community as a whole. I hope people take away from this episode that the chef world is approachable. There's some great opportunities for them to kind of develop into. Jack is really cheeky with the way he approaches things, so I'm expecting some good banter, which I'm fine with. And he better not ask me about my favourite dish. Okay, let's do this.
Lloyd, welcome to My Duvet Flip. How are we?
Very good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
We're going to learn all about your career, where it started, and you're giving away something right now on what you do now. But I want to get there. But I want to go back to the beginning. First job, what was it, and what did it teach you about the world of work?
So my first job, and I'd always wanted to be a chef, so it's a really simple one if that's not the giveaway. So I've always wanted to be a chef, that's all I've ever known I wanted to be. But I was really fortunate to kind of stumble into a great workplace as an apprentice. So my first step into the working world was very much along the lines of I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't really know where to get to, so I played the numbers games. I applied to a number of colleges and culinary schools, and actually that's what got me my first job. So I was taken on as an apprentice within a large corporate food service setting. So for me it was very much the first step was working in an environment that I would go on to have a career in, progressing through the ranks, learning what it takes to become a chef, but under some really good chefs, but also making sure that for me, they coached and mentored and developed me at that right stage when I needed a little bit of support and some discipline sometimes as well.
You know what? You're so lucky to know what you wanted to do. Because there's so many people, and that's why they tune into this show, because they're not too sure, or they think they may want to do something, and then someone like you comes on the show and just really makes it clear for them on why they should move forward as a chef. Yeah. But like, why chefing, and where did it? Do you call it chefing, by the way?
Yeah, chefing. Yeah,
Is that
all the chefs say chefing. So
cool.
you're
Okay,
an honorary chef.
There you go. Thank you. What was it around chefing for you? Why did you want to become a chef? Where did that passion and that energy come from?
I think the passion came after, but I think if I'm honest, a lot of it was to keep me out of trouble. My nan was a good chef, a cook, should I say, a very good home cook, and as a small kid growing up, I was a little bit mischievous. And so to keep me out of trouble, she would give me little jobs to do around the kitchen. So it started off there, and that's where the kind of passion, if you like, came from. My granddad would grow lots of fruit and vegetables in his garden, so I was either stealing cherries from the tree or pinching tomatoes when they were ripe, and I shouldn't have been doing. So it's to keep me busy. And so I think I kind of convinced myself that that's what I wanted to do. And I kind of come from a background of people that were not academic, but I knew I didn't want to go down the traditional routes that they would have done. And so I love food. I've always been kind of intrigued by the discovery of new things, and food is one of those that can kind of take you on that journey. So it became very easy, and I think I convinced myself that that's what I wanted to do, and it just become that self-fulfilling element that I needed to then go on and learn. So I fell into my first job at 16, actually done my interview when I was 15, so a little bit kind of nervy, and was very fortunate that that's where that kind of passion come from, young age, 6, 7, 8, but it was really to keep me out of trouble.
I love that. I love that. Nan and Grandad keeping you out of trouble, and then you just kind of falling in love with it and building a career out of it. It's just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I think a lot of it as well is it's a career that you can get into at any stage. You know, it's something that I fell into because the love of food, but it's something that's open to absolutely everybody. And I think you don't necessarily need to kind of focus on the academic side. That can come. It's a life skill, regardless of what you do, whether you like food or not. It's something that everybody should learn how to cook. And I've got 3 daughters. They can all cook reasonably well, but they say the same thing. You're lucky that you knew what you wanted to do. And I think it's understanding there's opportunities there that they can go into if they want to. And it's such a diverse place to work in. You know, there's so many doors that can open through food, and my journey, I guess, represents that.
So at home you get to be a judge chef.
No, I get to be a personal chef when I'm at home.
I love it. I love it. Oh, you've said a few things that I just want to like kind of pick up on,
Sure.
And then I would love to like run through how someone who's tuning in can become a chef. But like, firstly, you said you played the numbers game.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you mean by that? And what does that mean in grand schemes? As a young person who wants to get into chefing, what does playing the numbers game mean? Because I agree with you, even today's day, in terms of apply for as many things as you can. But what does it mean to you?
I think for me at the time, I was adamant. I knew what I was going to do, so nothing would have stopped what I was going to do, one way, shape or the other. So it was really about that way in. And actually, I think that's probably what got me my first job. So my first head chef, he could see that. I think he'd interviewed a number of people. I was one of 6 apprenticeships at the time. But I guess I was the last one that came through the door before they kind of stopped doing that program internally. But I think he could see that I was going to go and progress into the chef world regardless. So if that job didn't work out, I had another interview lined up and I had a backup plan for that. I didn't know that's what I was doing. It was like future planning, but I was just, in my term, I was just playing the numbers game. Something would have worked out. But regardless, I was focused on making sure I got that onto that career ladder, and that was my first step. I think he could see that, so he saw attitude where I just saw some safety. You know, I knew I'd left school in the June, July. I had till September when the colleges start to kind of kick in, so I'd had those applications accepted. So my backup plan was the fallback. The reality is I wanted to get into the kitchen and learn. And I knew, not being necessarily that academic, the practical way of learning by kind of seeing and doing and replicating is something that's always worked for me. So I knew I wanted to be there and learn, and that's the best way for me. And I think he could see that.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. What does an apprenticeship chef does? Like an apprentice chef do? Like, what if I was becoming your apprenticeship chef tomorrow? What would I be doing, and what would like the role look like?
So I think you very much start as a blank piece of paper. You go in, you've got very little knowledge. So it's firstly to keep you safe. You know, so it's all those kind of things. You're working in a dangerous environment. You know, there's lots of issues around you that you need to be aware of. So it's making sure people are safe. That's the first step. And I think we do that very well within Sodexo, making sure people have got the foundations correct that they can build on. And then I think it's really around how your kind of coach or mentor or trainer can help evolve you and shape you into what the foundations look like, so that if you are to pick up and move to another role within the business, you've got that solid base to work from. But then it's also how you can pluck out certain areas to make people strive for something different. As I said, there's lots of different roles within culinary that you can go into, whether it's dietitians or nutritionists or you know, even menu design or menu analysis. But that foundation has to be strong. So kind of stepping into the kitchen day one, let's keep that person safe. Let's make sure they're kind of inspired. And I think if they've got that natural curiosity around them to learn and develop, they'll go really far. And I think once the food bug bites you, you're stuck, you know, and it can really help you travel around the world. So I think bringing somebody in as an apprentice, they have to be curious. It's around having the right attitude, give them the right structure to learn and the kind of the discipline, but also there's got to be a little bit of magic. You know, they've got to have that kind of desire to do more. And I think most chefs do. It's a very unforgiving world, but it's also a very rewarding one at the same time as well, with lots of opportunities.
How many meals do you think you've created?
Oh my day. I have no idea. I honestly don't, because I guess a lot of my background has been across different areas. So I've done fine dining, hospitality, where you really focus on the kind of complete top end, to large events. And I guess within Sodexo, we touch on all of those kind of areas, in the sense of we have clients ranging from, kindergartens and schools and education, right the way through to, we have a Michelin star restaurant in Paris. So the world is your oyster, and so to put that into kind of some kind of numbers is really difficult, and it changes. It's varied, and I think that's what's the exciting part of being a chef.
That's really interesting, and that's really interesting information and understanding and insight on Sodexo, in terms of from working at a nursery to having a do you call them 5 stars?
We have a 3-star restaurant.
3-star restaurant
in Paris, and
wow,
yeah.
That's incredible. You keep mentioning, which I like a lot, around having the right coaches and mentors around you. How do you know you got the right head chef, the right chefs, if you're starting out around you? How did you know that you had the right people around you?
I don't think I did at the time. And I think what I'd seen as pressure was actually somebody putting their arm around me and making sure I was being looked after. And there's a very fine balance between doing that and pushing too far. And I think the really good chefs, when they can see in an apprentice or a young chef's eyes that they have that real love of what they're doing, I think they want to make sure they're developing the talent for the future. And I think making sure we attract the right people is one thing, but then making sure they're on the right path is another. And so at the time, I don't think it felt like it was quite hard, but actually it was building resilience. It was making sure that some of those kind of foundational skills were in place. So it's around learning the technique, the taste, your own personality. I think that can only come by being challenged. And what you grow to realise, as I've grown to realise, is that was hands-on coaching. That was someone actually saying, why do you feel like that? And it was just a test. And sometimes the answer's irrelevant. What's your favourite ingredient? They're not necessarily looking for you to give an answer that's one way, shape, or the other. They're looking at how you feel about that. Because actually we could pick something like, a mango. Why is that your favourite? Because it's in season, because it's at its best. And so the response is something that's interesting. And at the time, when you're being put under pressure and you're being developed, everything is a challenge. And it's only later you can realise, actually, that was good pressure. That was good pressure to get the best out of me and to really make me focus. And working in the kitchen, you're making split-second decisions. So you've got to be on your A game all the time and have that kind of bright spark about you as well. And I think that's what good coaches are looking for. And actually having somebody young in the kitchen or somebody that's come back in as a second career, that's what that kind of coach mentor's looking for.
As a host of a show, podcast, when I watch other podcasts, I'm always like, oh, that could be a little bit better. Oh, that's really nice. That's really cool. Do you have this like chef mind where you go into restaurants and you're like, oh, I like that. Or, oh, they did really good there. Something that you see because you're in the industry that people like myself wouldn't, because I'm not a chef.
I think there's probably 2 things. Yes, I think the chef's mentality is it can always be better. I think there's this kind of knitted into the really best chefs that they can always improve. So every dish, it's what can I do better? How can I make that improvement? I think being critical when you're from the outside, it's almost a learning part, because there's 1,000 different ways to make a sauce, for instance, but understanding your own identity and how you'll kind of play that back out is something you need to be comfortable with. But I think we always say you're only as good as the standard you walk by. And what that really means is, you need to have the vision to be able to see what's wrong, but it's how you deal with that as a person, and how you give that coaching and development to make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again, and how you can improve it. To your point, there's no going back from something that's bad quality, but we should be striving for better all the time. And I think chefs do that. Chefs like to complain, chefs like to moan, but the core of it is that they love what they're doing, and that's a good thing. And I often say, when I'm looking for the next talent within the business is I'm okay with a little bit of attitude, a little bit of personality. I want that spark. I want that resilience plugged in, because that's where you're going to get somebody that is comfortable challenging, and that's okay. That's what I would want to see. Give them the right skills, the technique, the taste, allow them to develop, and they've got the right approach, and then they'll come through. And they need to be comfortable with saying, actually, I can call that out because I've got the grounding and the knowledge to do that. So for me, you're only as good as the quality you walk by.
Absolutely. And how long does it take to become a qualified chef?
I think it varies in many countries. Normally between 2 to 3 years to get your step, first step on the door.
Which is not long at all.
Not really. I think it's really accessible. I think that's one of the things for me. I mean, I would have been, if I'd have had to go to university and try to stick it out for 5 years, it wouldn't have worked for me. But the reality is I could go in day one, I'm learning. And that was the kind of opening, so accessible. You can progress really well. There's so many opportunities to go off into different areas and specialities. That for me, it's just unique. It's a unique career path, open to everybody, and also in the right setting with the right company, very rewarding, and can open up to travel, different experiences, meeting different people, different cultures. I think that's the part food does. It connects people.
Yeah, it does. It does connect people. And if I were to join you right now, what would you say, and we then sat down again in 2 years, what do you think I would have had to kind of shown in terms of development for you to turn around and go, Jack, you've gone from an okay chef to a good chef?
I think it comes down to attitude. I think it's more attitude than anything, because if you've got the right attitude and you can take information on and almost be like a sponge, because I think that's the part when you're learning, you've just got to absorb stuff, and the content's coming thick and fast. Like what you're learning is a new daily task on a regular basis. And I kind of apply that to my role now. I don't know everything, but actually I'm learning from different people. Maybe now not so much in the chef world as much, but also it's that kind of more rounded, holistic approach to kind of learning that I learned at a young age that now I can kind of understand that's what I'm doing. But I think if you was to walk in on day one and where you'd walk out in 2 years' time, I think it would be night and day, because what the kitchen teaches you is structure, discipline, but also almost like infinitive creativity. Could you imagine like that people, I used to like art when I was younger, but couldn't find a way to convey that, and food was my way to do that through presentation, plating, colour, texture, and it's a different aspect. But actually day one to day 600 and something, you'd probably be a different person, different perspective, and also what influences you wouldn't just be, if we were to work together, it wouldn't just be me, it would be the team around you. Different cultures, different backgrounds, different kind of knowledge bases, and that diversity will be what would shape you at the end. And obviously if you was open to that, the learning opportunity is there for to take advantage of.
It sounds like an amazing career.
Hello, Otto Sergey.
Hello, Mr. Alexander. Are you looking for a credit card?
Oh, he's good. With Otto Sergey's handy credit card feature, he'll check your chances of approval before you apply, without impacting your credit score, taking the guesswork out of finding a credit card.
Simples.
Hey, that's my line.
So Lloyd, you've been in the world of chefing for 34 years, which is just an incredible career. What's something that you've learned in those 34 years that you don't believe you would have learned if you hadn't become a chef?
I think to trust your instinct and follow your passion. And I know it's a bit cheesy when people say do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life, and I think it's true. I love what I do, and I love working with food and people, and to me that's what it comes down to. But if I'd not had that kind of focus on what I really wanted to do and have that passion for food, it might have been all very different. So for me, it comes down to kind of being completely focused, trusting your instinct, and having passion for everything you touch.
I think that's great reflection, and just makes you all-rounder, right? As an individual. So tell me a little bit about your role today. Like, what do you do in your role? What does it mean? What's the title of the role?
So my role is as a global executive chef, so I head up our culinary teams around the world. I guess the role itself is really to be that connection point in the community for Sodexo's culinary teams, but also making sure that they are connected into the business, connected into each other, to inspire them, to give them opportunities and to kind of help them develop and evolve, whether that's training opportunities, whether that's experience opportunities, or whether that's just making sure that they have the resources that they need. So my role is a bit of a blended role. I often say it's, you're part done by design, so you're an expert in certain areas, but also you're having to translate. I use that when I talk to people within the Sodexo world, to translate corporate jargon sometimes into chef language in a way that they can understand, into food, yeah. And sometimes they're different things. And so kind of being that kind of connection point or conduit between the two is quite interesting. It's a dynamic I really like. But I think making sure that you inspire that next generation is absolutely critical in what you do. And I've tried to never lose that kind of red thread of that's how I got into the industry and that's how people treated me. So I try to make sure that runs through everything that I do.
And was that always the plan, to go from kitchen to kind of boardroom?
No, actually, it's my plan is to kitchen. Yeah. Actually, the opposite. I've probably tried to stay away from or stay in the kitchen as much as possible, and I think that's one of the things I'd really thrive on. And as much as you learn from people that kind of inspire you, you also take away things from traits that you never want to do. And for me, I always wanted to have my hands on the craft and to make sure that if somebody tomorrow said, right, we're short, can you step in? Absolutely, no problem. And never to be put off by that. And also, that's how chefs test people. Can they still do what they say they're going to do? So for me, when people turn around and say, you're a real chef, that's a compliment. So I love the fact that at any day, if I had to step into the kitchen and to go and manage an event, and we do that all the time, I'm extremely comfortable. Actually, I'm more relaxed there than anywhere else. I always say wearing a chef's jacket's like putting your pajamas on, being comfortable at home. It's that kind of feeling. This is what is natural to me. And also putting a chef's jacket on with a lot of chefs is a kind of super cloak. It's like your Superman uniform as well. You feel protected, you've got something there. And I think that's also why I don't want to move away from the kitchen. Never forget where you come from. And that's something that's kind of stuck with me all the way through.
I use this saying, you can't be on the top floor, you don't understand the shop floor.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what you're saying,
like
right?
That. Yeah, absolutely.
So if I'm in a restaurant and I always hear, yes, chef. So is it with you, is it, yes, chef?
No, I mean, it's one of those things you do hear that and everybody sticks to it. And I think a lot of it is two things. Kitchens are very big, noisy places. Nobody can remember anybody's name half the time as well, but also it's that sign of respect. So, and it's mutual as well. It's quite interesting, but it's stuck. That kind of brigade system from tradition is something that's stuck, and I really like that actually. It's that nod to the kind of traditional French discipline of a brigade kitchen, which we still use today.
Wow. We're going to get into Sodexo and some of the programs you're working on. Before I do that, it wouldn't be right if I had you on the show and not ask you a little bit about your favourite dish. So tell me, what's your favourite dish at the moment? And do you have different dishes per season that's your favourite? Because you're a chef, right?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I guess this is a bit of a learning moment. So no chef ever likes to be asked that question.
Cool, so I'm learning.
I'm sorry.
You just kicked me.
Sorry, I'm saying it for all the chefs out there. We hate that question, but in reality, the reason is because it's really hard. But you've probably answered my question, back already. My belief is cooking with the seasons and really kind of nurturing what's at its best at that moment in time. That's really difficult. When we're coming out of winter into spring, the seasons almost dictate what's at its best, and you should look forward to those ingredients and then start to think almost what grows together goes together. It sounds a bit cheesy, but that's the reality. So a single dish is really hard. It depends on where you are. You can be by the coast and think of seafood and samphire and so on, or you could be in the middle of looking at a field of some beautiful purple sprouting broccoli, like at the moment, banging season. What do you do with that? I think that's where the chef's mind kicks in. You look at an ingredient and it inspires you to think of what could I do. And going back to what I said earlier, it will never be good enough and you'll always want to evolve it anyway. So it's something that moves.
Lloyd, lesson learned. I will never ask a chef what their favourite dish is again. I get it. Talking a little bit, you can't go 5 minutes, especially here in London, without probably if you really wanted to, walking into a kitchen, right?
Sure.
You could work anywhere. Why do you pick Sodexo as the place to kind of work and do your chef in and help other chefs become brilliant?
I mean, I like the variety. You know, as I've said, we've got a variety of kind of outlets that we operate across. You know, whether it's a kind of a mine in Chile or, you know, to the Eiffel Tower, for instance. So the world really is your oyster. So I like that kind of variety that it offers, and the different people that you meet all the way along as well. So very much for me, everything I need is here. And I think looking at the next generation of people coming into the chef world, why would they consider working for Sodexo and in food service? Because they can cook at anywhere in the world. You know, it can make them travel around, you know, a global business with a footprint, with great exposure they couldn't get elsewhere. You couldn't walk into a high street restaurant and have that experience. But in Sodexo you can, you know, and you can be connected with technology nowadays to people to get, if I want the best Indian recipe now, I can pick up the phone on my WhatsApp group and I can say I'm doing something tonight, what's the best recipe? And, you know, Chef Ronald from India will give it to me. Do you know what I mean? It's as simple as that. And that's really unique. I don't think anybody else can say they can do that. If we want to learn around ceviche, we can, you know, pick up the phone to the team in Chile and understand that, and that's the same everywhere. That's different. That's a little bit special. I think when you start to look at food moments and bringing people together to kind of explore that, that's how chefs learn. But that's completely different from working in your local restaurant. It's a different way to do things. I think, you know, not many people can say they've had that level of exposure, and working in a business such as Sodexo gives you that.
And what are some of the programs or incentives or community work that Sodexo's doing to help people and help the future of chefing?
So I think a big thing for me is, I guess, and what I'd like people to know, I guess chefs have the power to make change. You know, I know you interview a lot of kind of, you know, business people, and I'm a chef coming here, so I feel really grateful.
You're a business person.
Well,
you know, the funny thing is, none of those business people would be able to operate without your chefing.
this is very true. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. But I think people need to realise that chefs have got the power to do really great work and make really big change. And I think Sodexo as a business embraces that, and they understand that chefs are the engine. That's where the change happens. Every day, by the ingredients that we source, by the quality that we produce, by the dishes that we cook, by that kind of approach. And we've got a number of programs. So one being our global chef competition, Cook for Change. It's now in its 4th year, open to anybody within the Sodexo business. It's not prescriptive in any way. It's really, we want the best idea that they have, linked to sustainability, low carbon food, but it has to be delicious. You know, at the end of the day, there's no compromise. It's quality first always. Create something that can be sustainable, that's good for them, good for the planet, and also good for Sodexo. And I think having that kind of challenge is something that's unique.
And that's called Cook for Change.
Cook for Change, yeah. It's our global culinary competition. In its 4th year, I think this year we had 600 people apply.
Does that mean 600 dishes?
600, more than 600 dishes,
Wow.
actually. So we had people from, I think, over 30 countries that participated. We then brought them together into semi-finals in Shanghai, Chicago, and into France. That was in November. So 15 different countries participated in the semi-finals alone. So the semi-finals are huge.
That is huge.
And in London in March, we've got our grand final. So top 9 come together from 7 different regions, 8 different countries come to compete to see who's the best. And we take all those great dishes and put them back into our business. So this is not just around highlighting the work that they do, but it's really around leveraging the innovation, the kind of new skills and techniques that we can then amplify and learn from. So we take those chefs, give them the exposure, they get the recognition, they really are the stars of the business, but we can take that as a business and put that innovation into the mainstream with our brands and bring it to life, really give it the exposure it deserves.
So it's the real deal.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer that courage comes before confidence, and the competition gives them the encouragement to build even more confidence, right?
Absolutely, and we've seen that through the journey of the challenge, actually. And I think one of the things I really like is everybody's different. Some people need that kind of different level of kind of coaching, support. and it's really moving. You know, we have people that have never had a passport before, never been out of the country. They get kind of that level of exposure, and we support them all the way through. And whenever we do the briefing, I always start off with, there's no such thing as a silly question. And if anybody wants to reach out, they can do. And the fact that I know what it's like, I know what it feels like to tip up in a new country, in a different country where you've never travelled before and not know where to go. And I think we make sure as a business that they're supported every step of the way. New learnings, new opportunities, but also making sure that they're at that point when they're competing to do their absolute very best. And I think making sure that environment is perfect for them to compete in means that we get the very best out of them, and those dishes can be translated to our customers and consumers.
Absolutely, I love that. And that's every year, and that's been running for the last 4 years.
Yeah, we're in year 4 now. It's growing every year. It's phenomenal, actually. And it's like what was a bit of a pet project and a crazy idea, like all the best ones are, has grown. We've had amazing support. I've had line managers that have supported that, as well as the kind of wider Sodexo business. But I think it's a concrete example of what Sodexo believes, what we stand for, what our mission is. It really brings to life, we're an organisation that wants to do well. We want to create great services, great food, great opportunity for our people. And we're powered by chefs, and it's that belief that, what our chefs create can do good as well, whether that's good in the environment, the community, whether it's by selecting the right level of ingredients, but also to make sure they taste good. It's about doing something that's holistically challenging for our chefs, but good for the company.
You speak so passionately about chefing. I love it. And you didn't have to wear the uniform today, but you've got it on. You're what they say, repping the chefs, and it's just great. I've got a question around AI.
Okay.
You probably have this come up around this. How is AI helping a chef's career? And is it?
Yeah, I think we all use AI, whether we think about it or not, in many ways. So I think when AI first came out, there was a lot of feelings within the chefs community. There's a little bit of a threat. Will it take jobs? I'm sure you've probably heard that from everybody.
I got called AI the other day. That's not you actually interviewing, it's your AI. It's like, I'm here.
But I think if we look at it as a tool, and we've done some really good development with AI in our kind of recipe development. And I think if you look at it in the lens of chefs are overwhelmed in many ways with briefs, requirements, trends, insights. Thousands of pages. Nobody can read that. And as I said, it's a really tough task to be analytical but also creative. So getting the blend for somebody that's taking that information in is difficult. I'm the same, and I'll use myself as the example. Would I read 3,000 pages of insights to come up with a dish? No. I would look at it and say my intuition, my creativity, my passion would drive me, but do I need that to back up my decisions? Yes. So would I use AI, and we've done this with recipe development, to kind of summarise those points and give you that guidance? And then we did a really good programme 2 years ago, taking recipes that would analyse pages and pages of insights and menu inspiration development, summarise that down to help the chef make the decision. Now, the chef still needs to have their eyes on that. They need to look for repetition, making sure the sequencing is right, do those products go together. But AI can make the suggestion, if this is not available, you could use this. We can give it instructions, and one thing I'm learning is the prompts are more important than what you put in. Give it the right prompts, ask the right questions, and actually it can really be helpful. So look at it as a tool to kind of help move and progress things along. Tapping into the resources that are already available, it can really help us, progress in an area that is sometimes quite challenging. It's more efficient, more allowing the chefs to focus on what they do well, which is cooking great dishes, making sure they taste really good, and something that's supported by trends and insights at the end of the day. We can't read and understand everything, but AI can help us.
That doesn't sound like AI's taken the chefing job. That like it's helping it expand, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I want to ask, for anyone that's tuned in today, like, they're hearing from Chef here. Yeah. Like, what can they do to apply, get involved? What's your recommendation as a next step?
So I'm sure you'll probably put a link, in the kind of bio as to where they can find that information. But I think it's, if you have a passion for food, reach out. Sodexo, there's a kind of a landing page already for careers at Sodexo. Start there. I think start to investigate where and what you would like to do and where you'd want to learn. And I think that will naturally lead you there. There's lots of great organisations, especially in the UK, to understand a little bit more around if it's the right career for you. But I think just go out and do it. You know, go out, touch, feel, taste food. And, you know, I think if that inspires you, you're in the right place. I mean, that's the first step on the career ladder in the chef world.
And we'll put the links that you've said below for anyone to look at. Are you ready for my final question, Lloyd?
Yes.
What's your duvet flip? What gets you out of bed in the morning to flip the duvet?
I think it's probably two. So first one is people. I love working with people, and I love passionate people, people that care and focus on doing a really good job. But I think doing the work that I do really shines a spotlight on some of the great work that our chefs do. So it's a marriage, you know, we want to create delicious dishes that taste good. I have to have skilled, passionate people to do that. My role is to kind of help, you know, kind of shine that spotlight on them, but also work in an organisation that allows me to do that. So for me, it's food and people. Really, really simple, but having that opportunity in the right environment to be able to do that is critical.
Well, I just want to say thank you for your energy, your wisdom, your kindness, and coming in to my type of kitchen to come and talk to about your kitchen and your career. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. It's been thoroughly enjoyable. Thank you.